Okay. Hey guys, it's Chris here, and today I'm going to be going over my project template that I've been using for the past 3 years. It's a project I use in Reaper, and all the plugins are 100% free. I'm going to just play the project right now. I didn't perform the guitars or the bass or the lead guitar. I just found these stems online and plugged them into the project. Let's hear what that sounds like. So that's what it sounds like. I'm going to break this down in about 5 parts. First part is just going to be me explaining what my project template is, like what these tracks do, just explaining the layout. Next, I'm going to be talking about the guitar chains, and that includes the rhythm guitars as well as the lead guitars. Third, I'm going to be talking about my bass chain. Fourth, I'm going to be summarizing what I do for the drums. And for the fifth part, I'm going to be talking about mastering, in quotes. So first of all, I'm going to be talking about my project layout, right? So for tracks 1 to track 6, these tracks right here, these are all my source tracks, I guess you could say. No audio is actually played through them. Their only job is to send audio to something else. And I try not to do as much processing here as possible. It just makes it simpler for me. Tracks 7 through 18, right here, near the bottom. These are where all my processing tracks are. This is where I put most of my effects in. Still talking about project layout. Track number 1 is called drum MIDI, right? That's where I put my drum MIDI, and it's where I put my drum VSTs as well. And once again, it just sends audio, it doesn't actually play audio. So it sends to these tracks right here. It sends to 8 to 12. Track number 2 is where I track the DIs for my left guitar, my left rhythm guitar, and it sends to track 13. It sends to the left side of track 13. Track 3 is where I record the DIs for my right guitar, and this sends to track 13 as well. It sends to the right side of track 13. Track 4, lead guitar, left lead guitar, sends to track 14, sends to the left side of track 14. Number 5, right lead guitar, sends to the right side of lead 14, or track 14. Bass guitar track. Track number 6. This track sends to tracks 15 and 17 and 18. And I'll go over what each track does in the bass section. Okay, guitars. I'm going to be talking about rhythm guitars for now, but these 2 DI tracks right here, they are mono. I know it looks like stereo, but both sides are the same. For some reason they were rendered to stereo. They don't need to be. The bus right here though, track number 13, is stereo. And what I do is have both DIs for the left and right side. It runs through the same project chain. And how I can do that is all the plugins are in stereo, except for this one, it's in dual mono. I'll go over that. It doesn't sound any different than if I had each track go through its own signal chain that was the same, but it makes it easier when I tweak the tracks. So if I want to tweak the amp, I could tweak both amps. It's one amp, but it's stereo. So if I tweak it, I tweak both sides, and it saves a lot of time. It's much more convenient, and I'm lazy. So I'm going to go over the signal chain for the rhythm guitars. First, I have this TSB1. It's like a tube screamer. I have the drive set to 0. Tone, it's like 9 out of 10. And then level, 10 out of 10. Next, I have the amp, and this is a very nice plugin that I've been using for a while. And it's the Ignite Emissary. It just recently got updated, so this is like 2.0, I think. Got all sorts of crazy stuff. You got low mids and high mids. I like how there's 2 knobs for that. Next is my IR loader. If you don't know what an IR loader is, it's supposed to mimic a cabinet, and it does this by loading these impulse responses. So if you play a short pulse through a cabinet, and recorded that. That is the impulse response, and this is an impulse response loader. It loads them, and somehow magically makes it sound like a cabinet and not like ass. Let me show you what it sounds like without it. It's not good, at least not for me. I don't know. Next, I have EQ, high pass, get rid of some of the mud. Low pass, get rid of some of the fizz. I have notch here around 4 kilohertz, you know, doesn't sound pretty. I have a little bit of treble boost, and I've notched some of this. I guess that's like 1.5 kilohertz. Next, I have this TDR Nova. Okay, this TDR Nova is called dynamic EQ. So it EQs if a certain area passes a certain threshold. So I have it set to around where I get most of my low-end mud when I do some chugs, when I do palm mutes. And so if the frequencies there pass this blue line, this threshold, then it'll cut some of them, which is useful when you don't want mud building up, you know. So that's why I got it there. It's really useful for like if you're going super low. I try to keep that in there. This is I don't have it on right now. Sometimes you don't need it, sometimes you do. But this is another notch at 4 kilohertz. Its 4K range is really acting up. Then I'll turn this on, but for these nice Fishman Fluence DIs, I don't need to. Then at the end of it, I've got a compressor. I guess it's acting like a limiter, but you know, smooths everything out as far as volume. All of these plugins are in stereo, but for the Nadir, the IR loader, I run it as a dual mono. What that means is instead of having this cabinet be the left cabinet and this cabinet be the right cabinet, it's like running it as stereo, but it's using this blended IR for both channels. That's the chain for the rhythm guitar tracks. For the lead guitar tracks, I'll go to DIs here. Oh yeah, I've also got a tuner and a gate for most of these DI tracks. Should mention that. This is my lead guitar track. Let's go ahead and ignore this first track, or this first plugin for a sec. First one is another tube screamer. It's a different one. I used a different one, so it would sound a little bit different than my rhythm guitars. This time everything's set at 100. Next is the Emissary. This time the trebles cut like super way down. Mids are crazy boosted. I got the shape on. Thanks to my boy Cameron for telling me about this tip. It's very helpful. I really liked it, and it helps the leads cut through the mix. Here I've got my cabinet impulses again. This time it's 100% 5150 impulse. On my rhythm track I had about 50-50. This time it's 100. Makes it sound a bit different. EQ, for the most part, you know, get rid of some of the low mud, some of the high fizz, boost some of the mids. That's pretty much it. Compressor compresses it, changes the delay. It's a nice ping pong delay. I'll show you what it sounds like. Adds a bit of room, you know how it is, right? And next I have some reverb, adds a bit of width, room, ambience, whatever you want to use. Right now it's not loading, but now it's loading. It's got all sorts of presets. I just use the default. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go over this plugin in the middle right here. So for this demo, I have the same DIs. These are 2 tracks, right? But they're the same tracks. I guess it's mono, right? And I don't like mono lead tracks. I know some people do, I don't. So I have this stereo imager running. Usually I just track 2 tracks. I double track for the lead guitar, but this is not something I tracked. I can't track it because I'm not this good at guitar. So I just put a stereo imager on it. I'm lazy. I think we've been over that. Just occurred to me. This is what the rhythm guitars sound like on their own. And then without all the effects. So I'm pretty proud of that tone. And here are the lead guitar tracks. I guess it's just one track. As you can tell, there is some sort of clipping issue, some sort of compression issue. I'm not an expert. I'm trying to fix that, but I probably won't be able to. it sounds fine in the mix. You don't get any of that clipping in the mix for some reason. I guess it's something to do with compression, maybe in the master chain. I don't know. Bass time. Let's take a listen to the bass. Let's listen to the DIs first. Take a listen to the send tracks, because this is a bit different than my guitar and lead tracks. This one mono track has quite a few tracks that it sends to. I'm going to show them off one at a time. This is 15. That's where I try to get that's where I try to get all of my low end for my bass tone. Let's take a look at 17. That's where I try to get my clang. It doesn't sound distorted, but it's super spanky. Number 18, this is where I get all my distortion. Some people might think it's a bit much, and you know, that's fair. If you want to tone it down. You just take the fuzz out. But let's go over the individual tracks again, a little more in depth. 15, it's the low end track, right? And so what I've got is an EQ. I typically have a high pass at around 70 hertz, just to get rid of some of that low end mud. And then right here, I'm doing a low pass. I don't want any of this high stuff, at least not on this track. And right here, TSE BOD, it's a bass overdrive, and I don't really have the drive at all. I'm just pumping out the lows. I am pumping out a bit of highs. I just like how it sounds. That's a bit weird. Cut out the highs. I'm gonna try to put them back in, but I do. Compressor right here. It's just the default driving rock bass compressor. Here I have another EQ. I'm just cropping out some more mud. And I have another compressor that's super fast. So if I didn't have it, and if I made this louder, you can hear how it's not as consistent. I find that if the low end is not very consistent, the whole mix doesn't sound very good, so I try to keep the low end as flat as possible. Track number 17. The clang. Okay, I have a compressor, super compressor, right? Limiter, super fast. Try to keep it super consistent. EQ. I didn't like that, so I cropped it out right here. This 3.6 kilohertz. Get rid of it. This, I'm cropping out some of the fuzz. Cropping out some of the low end mud right here. And I'm boosting around here. Just a nice tone. Super clangy. Sounds pretty bad by itself, obviously, but in the mix, I like that bit of clang. I have an SHB1. It's like a bass amp, I guess. I'm just boosting the treble a lot. Compressor again. Number 18. Fuzz, fuzz, fuzz. First, I have the SHB1 again. Again, I'm boosting all the treble. I'm adding a bit of gain. I have a TSE 808. The TSE 808 is a tube screamer and drives like 230 maybe. Same with the volume. Tones all the way up there. Again, boosting the treble. And then I have the fuzz. Next, I've got some more EQ, or I guess I've got EQ. And I got a high pass. Again, I'm cropping out the mud and I'm trying to get rid of some of that low end that I don't really want in this signal chain. And I'm cropping out the fizz that I don't like. So I tend to think that fizz is a bit too much. It's fizzy. I don't like it. I don't know. And next is compressor, limiter again. Compressor things. Number 4, drums. My least favorite part. Track 1. That's where I have my drum MIDI, right? Drum MIDI. Program the MIDI. Ooh. And This is where I have my drum VSTs, VSTIs, I guess. These are the sample kits. These are the, see what actually makes a sound, right? I send that to 8 to 12, right? Just a little refresher, I guess. I mainly have this MT power drum kit as cymbals. I got a little bit of tom in there, you know. Hi-hat, I don't know if that's a cymbal or not. I call it a cymbal, but I'm not a drummer. And I have this Naughty Seals Perfect drum player. Well, I use everything in it, but I really like the kick. Snare's pretty good. Toms are very nice. You only get 2, but it is a demo version. And together they sound like this. I'm not an expert at programming drums. As you can see, most of the levels are at nearly 127, which is not what you should do, but it's what I did. It still sounds pretty good for everything being slammed, you know? Kick, that's where the kick drum goes. That's where I send it. Let's start with compressor. It's just the stock death metal kick. I think it sounds good, so use it. Next, EQ. I tend to scoop the low mids a bit on my kick drum. I leave a bit of the low in there. I'm not like cutting that much out of it, right? And I tend to boost a little bit in the high end to give it a little bit of presence, I guess. But I do cut out these 2 right here. Usually it's around like 2 and 4 kilohertz that I cut. Listen to the kick, I guess. And it sounds super boring because I didn't mess around with the velocity enough. Snare. Again, sounds a bit boring, but if I had spent more time on it, it could have sounded better. Let's take a look. I have a compressor running on it. Again, it's just a stock compressor. I have this, add some reverb to it. EQ, cutting out some mud, cutting out some more mud, and boosting treble. Overheads, for the overheads track, right? I have the overheads, obviously, but I also have every single cymbal track and hi-hats just sent to this. And bells and all that. Crash, whatever, you know. I have another stock compressor running. Thank you, reverb. I have an EQ. It's stock, but I added some stuff. I took some stuff out. Next is toms. I don't really have much toms in here, but let me just... Everything here is stock. I have a gate and an EQ. I have the room. These drum plugins are good. They're not the best though. They don't sound particularly huge. But if I find that if I add more room in it, it does make it sound a bit bigger. I just have an EQ on it. I'm cutting out the low end and I'm cutting out some of the low mids as well. I think it really helps on the snare. Next, I'm gonna head back to track number 1. And I just want to go over this because I had trouble with it when I was setting up the drum tracks. Yeah, every time you load up a project, this right here, MT Power Drum Kit, it will have a please donate sign on it and then a skip button, and you have to press the skip button in order to actually hear any sound. Over here, it's perfect drums player. This is a sample kit, and I believe the first time you use this, you're going to have to load the kit manually. You won't be able to hear any, it'll just sound like this, right? You know what that sounds like? Nothing. That's bad, because it's not drums. Go over to Kit Designer right here. You see those gears right there? Right here? Right here? Right click on it, load sampler kit. In the folder I've uploaded, there should be a link in the description. It's going to be in VSTs, and it's going to be Perfect Kit 1 Demo. You open that and then it loads everything. I press cancel because I already have it loaded. After that, you're gonna have to change these. I'll go over that in a sec. In case you don't have Reaper and you're not gonna load up the project file, I don't know if this is the same for all tracks, but you're gonna want to open up the routing options. I don't know if it's the same for all DAWs, but in Reaper, you open up this routing option right here. As I was saying, I got 12 output channels on the drum MIDI channel, and that's so I can send to different tracks. Tracks 3 and 4 send to the kick drum, 5, 6 sends to the snare, 9, 10 sends to overheads, 7, 8 sends to toms, and 11, 12 sends to the room track. Once I have that set up in the actual track, I can go over back to these plugins and match them. So this is the kick track. Since I have 3, 4 sending to the kick track, in the actual plugin I'll set it as 3, 4, and do the same for snare, toms, overheads, all that. For the MT Power drum kit, it's a bit different. So for the MT Power drum kit, output 1 is outputs 1 and 2. It just for some reason lists a stereo output as 1 instead of 1 and 2. Output 2 is 3 and 4. Output 3 is 5 and 6, 4, 7, 8. So just be careful of that when you're setting up the outputs. If you load the project for the first time, you might have to load the sampler for the perfect drums player, and then you'll have to mess with the outputs here. But for the MT Power drum kit, everything should be set up. Okay, next I have my mastering. I don't know if I call it mastering. First of all, I've got this track shown up here if you're wondering how to do that. Scroll down. Oh, you right click and then show master track. Boom. And what I've got is a multi-band compressor. This compresses different bands of frequencies differently, and this helps it smooth out. So maybe I have a boomy low end. This should help with that. Same with the treble, same with the mids. Keeps it even. Next I have an EQ. I tend to boost the low end a little bit and boost around 5 kilohertz, and I have a high shelf at around 12 kilohertz. Next I have a limiter. This helps with the snare because the snare is pretty loud compared to everything else, so this helps even it out, limits the peaks. Finally, I have a compressor. This helps get everything pretty even. So that was a rundown of my whole project template thing. I've been using it for about 3 years. Only recently have I upgraded the drums. Everything else I pretty much keep. I pretty much use the free guitar tones, free bass tones. If you'd like to use it, I've linked a download folder, Dropbox link in the description, and let's just check it out right now. Check out what's in it. These are the IRs that I use. You're gonna have to load those yourselves, I believe, and let me show you how to do that. Go over to Nadir and press this button right here, and you're gonna go over, you're just gonna double click. That's gonna open it on whichever cabinet you want. Next folder is the actual project template. So if you have Reaper, you can just double click that and Reaper will open that for you. But before you do that, you're gonna have to install all these VSTs. If you're using Windows, use the VSTs. I don't know what Apple uses, and because of that, I have included I'm gonna have this link just in case you don't have Windows. These are where you can download all the plugins. I don't know if all of them have the Mac alternative, but just in case they do, you can check these out. Last folder has all the VSTs in it. So if you're using Reaper, you're either gonna have to add this folder as another directory to look for VSTs, or just move them over to your VST folder. If you have any questions, I guess leave a comment. If you have any ideas for videos you want to see, also leave a comment. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this at least somewhat helpful. Yep, thanks for watching. Peace, guys.